fantastic speaker, and because we got started a little late today getting in here, I'm going to give Craig till about 9:40 just to give you guys a heads up and an expectation of that, because I definitely want him to have his time. He is a fantastic speaker, my friend. I think I've known him around 7-8 years, and has a team up in Portland, Oregon. They're going to do about 400 units. They're on track to do about 400 units this year. And fantastic. He's the broker of Reger Group with Keller Williams, and he's just moved down to our area to be the area regional director. So we're really excited to have him. Fantastic guy, coach, dad. Welcome, Reger.
Morning. What a great group. This is really cool that you guys get together and do this. It's even cooler you had chocolate and wine last night. Thanks for the invite to that, Jen. Okay, so Jen asked me to talk today about a challenge that my team and I took on about 2.5 years ago. And it was 90 listings in 90 days. It was a challenge for my coach. And where that started was from a place of pain. So, like most of the country, we had a massive recession in Portland, Oregon between about 2007 and 2012. And we're in 2013. I've set all my business goals up, like big goals for this year. And on a good note, the market, like a light switch went on in Portland, Oregon, January 1st, 2013. So the market is substantially better. I'm just through the first quarter, and I'm way behind the goals I set, like substantially behind. And not only am I behind the goals I set, but my business is actually down from where it had been in the recession. So, like, I don't even know how that's happening, but that's where I was at. So I was in a place of pain, not very happy. And I have a real estate coach, and I talk to him every Monday for 6 years at 1 o'clock. And a good coach typically will start a conversation with a powerful question, trying to expand your mind. And a great coach will allow you to interrupt him and say, hey, here's what's going on with my life, my family, my business. I need your help. And that's what I did on this particular Monday at the end of April. And his name's Tony. I said, Tony, my business is in shambles. Like, it wasn't complete. For me, it felt like it was in shambles. I had a small team, 2 buyer's agents, 1 transaction coordinator, and myself. I was the only listing agent. And I'm behind on my goals, and a great coach also never tells you what to do. They ask you questions and help you self-discover. So he asked me back, like, what one thing will fix your business immediately? And I said, well, listings. Like, listings. We're in a good market. Not as good as it is now, but it was a good market. Like, you put listings on the market, you can pretty much 8 out of 10 times guarantee a closing 60, 90 days later. I said, listings. He said, fantastic. He goes, how many listings have you taken this year? I said, I'm averaging about 4 or 5 a month. He said, cool. What I want you to do, Craig, is I want you to take 90 listings in 90 days. And like, that's what I was like, yeah, impossible. Like, absolutely physically impossible. There's no way. How can I go from a listing a week to 90 listings in 90 days? And as we're talking, like, my brain is multitasking, and I'm thinking about this quote actually, and it's, by focusing on big goals, you'll be focusing on developing big habits that will always be appropriate to achieving your highest levels of success. By focusing on big goals, you'll be focusing on developing big habits. Well, this was clearly a big goal. And I needed big habits in my business, and I was choosing and looking to have my highest levels of success. So I was thinking about this as we're talking. And then the other thing I started thinking about is actually a chapter from the MREA, which was written by Gary Keller. And in the book, he talks about a first-time marathon runner. And I'm a non-runner. Like, if I was to go right now and run for 5 miles without stopping, I would have to call Jen or text her and like scrape me off the side of the road at mile 3. Like, it wouldn't happen. As a non-runner, like, that's really intimidating to me. And what Gary talks about in the book is, as a first-time marathon runner, because you're aiming so high at 26 miles, without noticing it, probably in 30, 60, or 90 days, you're probably running a 5 or 10 mile day. I mean, you might check it off and say, sweet, I just hit 10 miles, but you're aiming at 26, and it carries you through all the small goals. It carries you through those 5 miles. It carries you through those 10 miles. And I was truly thinking about this as my coach and I were talking, and I'm like, pulling some correlations together, saying, well, 90 listings, 90 days, that's 30 listings a month, the marathon's 26 miles, there's no way that it's physically impossible, yet, what if I go from a listing a week to 2 listings a week? What if I go from a listing a week, what if I hit 12? What if I go from 4 listings a month to 12? Like, if I fail, and I go from 4 to 12, like, that's pretty awesome. That's 200% more business than I'm currently doing that will absolutely fix all my problems. So I said, okay, I'm in. And my wife was my business partner. I hung up the phone and I told her, and she said I was crazy and it was physically impossible. Like, part of it is that we didn't want to make another goal and then fail. Like, sometimes for us, we make these big goals and then we fail, and we end up like going into almost a depression, or we feel worse at the end of it because we failed. And what I've realized through this journey is that the reason I feel worse is because I typically give up. It's not that I failed. The reason I get mad at myself is because somewhere along that journey, I give up on the goal. I don't do everything I can. And so in this one case, we said, you know what, for once in 20 years in this business, like, I'm going to do absolutely everything I can to hit this goal. And I think the first really like lucky it was like a brilliant time in my life that I could call, like, the brilliance of it is I dove right in. I like literally dove right in, because in the past I've made these goals not quite as ambitious as this one, and I do what I call getting ready to get ready, to get ready, to get ready, and I ultimately do nothing. Right? Or when I coach agents, I call it like the gold postcard. Like, they'll go home and tell their spouse or kids or somebody each night, like, they're just working for weeks and weeks on this perfect postcard, and they've got it dipped in gold leaf, and the font's amazing, and the call to action is the best ever written. And they'll spend 2 weeks with this incredible postcard, and then they send it out finally after 2 weeks, and it worked really hard. And they send it out, and they get responses or not. And the reality is, if they just put a professional slick together and just sent it out on day one, they'd get the same responses. Does that make sense? And so that's what I've done in the past. I spend so much time like preparing, and I'll go and interview people that have taken more listings than me, and I'll be like, how did you do it? What did you do? And I'll create this massive business plan. And then inevitably life gets in my way, and that might be really good. Like, understand when I'm taking 4 listings a month, it's not like, okay, it's Tuesday, it's listing day, right? That means it's 0 listings, 3 listings. And when I get 3 listings at once, even with a small team, we're slammed. Like, we're totally slammed, and it's 0 and then 2 listings. And so inevitably life gets in the way. It might get in the way because those 3 listings in a week show up, and my business plan goes to the side of my desk. Or it might be life gets in the way because one of my kids gets sick. Or it might be life gets in the way because I get multiple offers on 4 different properties, and that's a lot more fun than prospecting for listings, frankly. And so I'll put it on the side of my desk, and then I typically like continue to get distracted by shiny objects because I'm a squirrel, and I do nothing with it. I do nothing with it. And this one time I said, you know what, I don't know how we're going to do it. In fact, on a coaching call, I said to Tony, my coach, I said, fantastic, bless you. I'm in, let's go, 90 listings, 90 days, how do I do it? And he goes, well, our 30 minutes is up, I'll call you next week. Awesome. So I have no clue how I'm going to do it, yet I know that I'm going to dive right in. And I've like been at so many classes, I've traveled my whole career, you know, Buffini and Howard Brinton and you name it. Like, I've traveled around the country and seen these awesome coaches and followed their principles. I just actually never implemented much of it into my business. And so I said, we're going to go. We're going to go. We're going to dive right in. We're going to make this happen. And so, by the way, like Jennifer, I talked to her the other day, and I was so excited when she invited me. And she goes, I called her the other day. I was like, how much time do I have? She goes, 30 minutes. I was like, fantastic. This is a 4-hour class. So she goes, nuggets, Craig. We want nuggets. If Jennifer twists my arm, and if you guys ever invite me to wine and chocolate, I would love to come back and teach this for 3 or 4 hours. But I'm going to kind of give you the biggest nuggets today. So what it did or transformed our business is it gave me my one thing. And by the way, I'm going to talk about a team a little bit in the next 22 minutes. And make no mistake, if you're an individual agent, you're a team. You are a team. Like, I will argue that. Like, if you've ever made a flyer, then you're the admin of your team. And if you've ever put a buyer in your car, you're the buyer's agent of your team. And if you've ever gone over and got a listing contract signed, then you're the listing agent of your team. Those are 3 very different jobs. And if you are just you, which I was for many years, that's totally cool. You are a team. Is that fair? So today you're going to hear me talk about a team. And if you don't have a team, just think about the role that I'm talking about and when you've been in that role yourself. Bless you. Cool. So it gave us our one thing. And I was the only listing agent on the team. And it was, of all the dumb goals I've made, it was the simplest goal I've ever had. Because I just had to wake up and take a listing. 1 a day, period. Right? I might have to drive 3 hours for it because my market doesn't have enough listings for me to take 1 a day. But at the end of the day, if I come home with a listing, did I succeed or fail? I succeeded, didn't I? Right? Like 1 a day. Like, people constantly ask, like, how many appointments did you go on? What was your conversion rates? Like, shame on me if I went on 10 appointments and got 1 signed. But at the end of the day, if I did get 1 signed out of 10 appointments, I went to bed a winner that day. right? It was such a simple goal, like every night, and it wasn't, by the way, 90 listings in 90 days, the days I chose to work. It was 90 listings in 90 days. So if I wanted a holiday off, or if I wanted Saturday and Sunday off, it was super simple. I just have to list 3 homes on Friday. Is that fair? No, I'm serious. Like, it was that simple. Like, if I got a listing at 1, and if I didn't the next day, my only goal is to get 2. My only goal is to get 2. So having a one thing, like having that focus, I've got 20 years in the industry, I've sold well over 4,000 homes. Like, I understand the complexities of our job and the 1,000 hats we wear, and they're all so critically important. And they can also really sidetrack us, can't they? They can really sidetrack us, from like marriage counselor to all the other roles that we have. And that one thing of just waking up and get a listing, wake up and get a listing, gave me clarity I'd never had before. It built new habits that forever changed our behavior. Like, I could never go back at the end of this, I could never go back to taking a listing a week. Like, it'd be like, I just couldn't even imagine that. And I haven't maintained a listing a day over the last 2.5 years, yet we've done substantially more than a listing a week. We created a high production culture, we bonded our team and accelerated individualized growth. I've got a listing assistant for my team. Internally, I call her a listing nurse. If you think about it, right, like when my daughter went in and had her appendix removed when it blew up about a year ago, the surgeon saved her life, true? But it was the nurse that took care of her for the next 3 days in the hospital. Like, the doctor was awesome. Every morning, she would come in and check on Olivia for like 10 minutes, right? It's not like kind of calling our sellers once or twice a week and checking in with them. But it was the nurse that every time my daughter hit that buzzer, like, she came running in, gave her a popsicle, checked how she was doing, and took care of her for those 3 days. And on my team, that's how I look at my listing nurse. Like, my job is real estate surgery, which, by the way, does surgery pay more than nurse? Yes. So my job is to go and get listing contracts signed, negotiate contracts, and touch base with my clients and make sure they're being serviced. But at the end of the day, it's the listing nurse's responsibility in my organization to take care of them every single day, to work on showing feedback, to make sure the marketing is perfect, to do all of the other activities besides getting a listing contract signed and negotiating contracts. And so I had a brand new listing nurse or listing specialist on my team. She started 2 days before the challenge. And at the end of it, putting 90 houses on the market, which was her job, could we agree she was an expert? Yeah. Like, she got 3 years worth of experience, so it definitely accelerated our individualized growth. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into the next 17 minutes, like super fast Cliff Note versions of how we did it. Like exactly what we did from a listing a week to a listing day. Does that sound good? Yeah. Awesome. First thing was Sphere. First thing was Sphere. I was really bad about calling my Sphere. Really bad. My wife came and worked with me 12 years ago, and another thing getting ready to get ready is I'd signed up for Top Producer. Anybody in the room use or heard of Top Producer? So I went to lunch with the most successful agent in my market. His name was Brian Butler. And I was like, Brian, how do I be like you? You've got a big BMW, great hair, like how do I be like you? And he's like, super simple, Craig, get a database and say hi to your clients all the time. Is that not just classic stellar advice? And I was like, cool, what do you use? He goes, I use Top Producer. I'm like, awesome. So I went and signed up for Top Producer, $800, and for 2 years I never turned it on. You guys are laughing, but I know some of you have done stuff like that before. Like, that's not uncommon in this industry. So when Amory, my wife, came to work with me, she set up our database, and it was super simple. We'd only been married a couple years, and she still had the list of all the people we invited to our wedding. It's about 200. She had a list of people either we didn't like enough or could not afford to invite to our wedding. She put those in our database. And then she made me go in the attic, and at that point it sold, I don't know, about 150 homes. And I had to pull out the paper files, we put those in our database. And that year my business went from 7 million, which that's an average sales price of 2. I love the fact, by the way, that your trailers are as much as my house is back. So that's an average sales price of about 200,000. I went from 7 million to 17 million that year with no other changes but my database. And the next year I did 27 million, next year 35 million, and I never did less than 35 million again. And it was from her setting up a database and on a very frequent basis sending out this silly newsletter that said Reger's Real Estate Resource. Unfortunately, it worked so well that I became crippled by it. And I never called people. I like worked my tail off. I was one of those awesome agents, just like I can tell all of you are. Like, I went the extra mile. And at the end of the transaction, we had a really good follow-up campaign via newsletters and email, yet I wasn't calling them. And for me to get more business, for me to do more business, I knew I was going to have to do the one thing before, that I'd never been willing to do, which was pick up the phone. And so I've been in these classes and people are like, well, call them up and be like, hey, I've got my business hat on, or this is an apology call, I know I haven't talked to you in 9 years. And, right? Like, I've heard those, and I did not feel comfortable with that. That's not me, it's not my DNA. So I came up with 2 really simple scripts for me. And the first was, and you have to do this, like you can't make it up, is I drove by their houses. Like constantly going to church or Olivia's soccer game or other listing appointments, I would kind of take longer routes and drive by houses that I'd sold. And then I'd simply call them up on Monday and I'd say, hey, it's Craig Reger with Keller Williams Realty. I drove by your house this weekend. And it made me remember how much I enjoyed working with you and Sally. Like I remember the multiple offers, I remember the late closing, and it just reminded me of everything. And I just wanted to touch base and say hi. Is that not an easy script? Yeah. I drove by your house and it reminded me of how much I enjoyed working with you. The second thing I did is I got really intentional, and my goal was to have lunch with somebody that had helped me in the past, or I believed had the ability to help me in the future. So during these calls, I would invite them to lunch. And Gary Keller, who I get to coach with, he's my second coach, and he says that top producers are strategic and competitive. Top producers are strategic and competitive. So like in my perfect world, my markets or my office was like kind of in the outlying areas of Portland. Like I'd love to drive to downtown and have the fancy restaurants. I'm a food snob. Like that would be the perfect lunch to me. But that's not strategic because it's a 35-minute drive each way, hour lunch, like there goes 2.5 hours of my day. Is that strategic? No. So what I did is I had lunch brought into my office. I was like, fantastic. I have this great catering service. We'll have lunch at my office. And when it came in, I'd be like, hey, just so you know, I've got a signing in about 45 minutes. So excited you came in, happy to catch up with you. And I did this every single day. Like I did not miss a lunch in those 90 days. And what happened, it was automatic between the phone calls I drove by your house and the lunches. I get these phone calls 4 days later. Ring, ring. Hello, this is Craig Reger, Keller Williams Realty. Hey Craig, my name's Sally, and we're working for Intel, and they're transferring us to Arizona. And my sister Jane said that you're a great agent, and do you want to come over and sell our house? Like it was literally 3 days later. Now ironically, or not, Jane was the person I talked to 3 days before, saying I drove by your house. Like you understand, and this room, this is a really cool group for me to talk to because I share this message all over, and I can tell how experienced you guys are. Like this is not your typical group of realtors, is that fair? And like I guarantee some of you have been at Trader Joe's or Costco and you've run into somebody, like a past client or a friend. And you probably also didn't say, hey, by the way, since I ran into you, do you know anybody who wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? You just ran into them and had a conversation, and then 3 days later you get a referral from that person. Has that happened to you guys? Like you fill their brain space for a short period of time. You just do, and if they bump into somebody in the next couple of days, they're so likely to refer you and think of you. If you don't call them, or if you don't bump into them, and that person's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna sell my house, they're like, that's awesome. But if you do call them, or you go to lunch with them, they're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And by the way, you need to call Jennifer House, she's amazing, you need to call Craig Reger. Does that make sense? So that was the first strategy, was just getting face-to-face with my clients, and making it really strategic on the lunches and making it fast. Making it fast, but in 45 minutes I got through it. And again, it was people that had supported me in the past by giving me referrals, or it was people that I felt had the ability to support me in the future. Who's the ability to support me at a high level? Accountants, hairstylists, dentists, like people who, like us, are seeing a ton of people all day long. The next thing I did, which was absolutely terrifying, I don't know if it's more terrifying than calling my clients, is what's called circle prospecting. Does anybody in the room know what circle prospecting is? One. Perfect. I'm in the right group. I love it. All right, so circle prospecting. How am I doing on time? Got 11 minutes. We are rocking. Circle prospecting is you get a target. You can draw a circle around that target, and you contact everybody in that circle, and you ask them if they want to sell their home. You can do square prospecting. You can draw a square. You can do whatever you want. But essentially, it's right, again, super experienced group here. How often have you gone over at closing to pick up your lockbox and your sign or whatever you've got at the property, only to see your competitor sign across the street? Does that happen here? Happens all the time, doesn't it? I call that keeping up with the Joneses. Like, the Joneses sold their house, honey, maybe we should sell. Like, that happens all the time, doesn't it? And we know through NAR stats that 80% of home buyers say, hey, I had a great experience with my agent, I would use them again. 80%, that's NAR. And I'd love to see that 90%, but considering the complexities of home buying and lenders and home inspections and all the stuff that can happen, I think 80% we're doing pretty well as an industry, yes? What percentage of buyers actually use the same agent again? Anybody know? 17. 17%, NAR stats, look it up, Google. It's gotta be right if it's on Google. So is it 80% to 70%? And why does that happen? Because agents like me are not doing a good job of staying in touch with our past clients. Is that fair? And so understand with circle prospecting, when you sell a home or list a home, and the agent that sold the neighbor house across the street 5 years ago, who probably hasn't stayed in touch with them, when you reach out, and by the way, you have proof of success because you just sold that property, there's a very high probability that they'll interview you. They might interview you and the agent that sold the house 5 years ago, but there's a high probability that you're going to at least get an interview for that listing opportunity. And so how I found numbers for circle prospecting is I received them from my local title company. So I've got a great title company in Portland, Oregon. I called up my friend Denise. I was like, hey, I got to do something I've never done before. I want to call people up and tell them I just sold their neighbor's home, and I need the nearest 100 phone numbers. And Denise was awesome. Like 10 minutes later, it was on my email. So the script went something like this. It's, ring, ring. Hello. Hey, I'm Craig Reger. I'm with Keller Williams Realty. I just sold your neighbor's house at 123 Main Street, and statistics show when one house sells, 3 more sellers will list in the next 90 days. Going on a script, is that fair? Like, have you seen that in neighborhoods where one house sells, and then there's 2 or 3 more signs up in the next 3 months over summer? Is that fair? So I'm Craig Reger, Keller Williams Realty. I just sold your neighbor's house, and statistics show when one house sells, 3 more sellers will list in the next 90 days. So let me ask you, have you thought about selling in this hot real estate market? And the script, I normally give the address. Like, I just sold your neighbor's house at 123 Main Street, because I wanted to get really homey to them. And here was the response I got. They said, well, Craig, Main Street's like 8 miles from us. I'm like, oh, those were the worst numbers. You get what you pay for. The title company gave me really, really bad numbers. Really bad numbers. So understand, like, the old Craig would have first off never made these calls in the first place. The new Craig would have apologized profusely. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was 6 miles away. And then the super new Craig is like, that's really interesting. By the way, do you know anybody that wants to sell their house? I did. Like, I got really out of my comfort level. I'd never done this before. And I ended up listing 28 homes the first month. Between my sphere and between circle prospecting, I listed 28 homes even with those horrific phone numbers. And ultimately, I found some technology, and it's a company, there's a bunch of them out there, and this one's called Mojo Dialer, the one I use, MOJO. And they've also got this add-on, which is called Lead Store. So I can type in any address, like 123 Main Street, Pleasanton, and it will pull up that house similar to a Google map, and then I can click with my mouse right around it. And then it will say, Craig, there's 400 residences in the circumference you just clicked. I'm like, that's cool. And it says, do you want their numbers? And I click yes. Because of the 400 residences, we found 250 phone numbers. Do you want those phone numbers? I click yes. It says, what do you want to name them? Well, I just sold 123 Main Street in Pleasanton, so let's name it just sold 123 Main Street in Pleasanton. And then I click yes. And it says, do you want to call? And then you click yes, and it just starts calling them for you. It's that simple. I'll tell you the statistics on circle circle prospecting are: it takes 500 dials to have 100 people pick up to set 2 to 3 listing appointments. Tell me that does not sound like brain damage, because it is. Yeah, 500 dials to set 2 to 3 listing appointments, to have 100 people pick up to set 2 to 3 listing appointments. It is not fun. But at the end of the day, if I don't have 2 listing appointments tomorrow, like, I guarantee, like, it'd be fun to role play this sometime. Like, put a headset on me. I'd have to get licensed here first. But put a headset on me, hook up my computer. If I start dialing, I call 500 people right now in this city, tell me that I won't have a listing appointment by tomorrow. Now, they may be crazy. I may not want the listing. They may not want to pay me. And there's a ton of other variables, true? No, seriously, there is. Like, just because I set an appointment doesn't mean it's a good one. But at the end of the day, I guarantee there's not a city in this country that I can't set a listing appointment tomorrow if I call 500 people today. Is that fair? It works. It really works. The next thing we did was door knocking. So how am I doing on time? I'm doing fabulous 6 minutes. I tried door knocking once. And it was kind of, again, getting ready to get ready. Like, I wanted to door knock. I was actually, again, broke. I was getting married. And I wanted to door knock the most affluent area of Portland. It's called Lake Oswego. I was like, hey, if I'm going to go pound on doors, I'm going to make sure the houses are super expensive, so when I get one, it sells, I won't be broke anymore. Yeah. And so I researched this area for like 3 weeks. Like, I toured every property. I called all the agents to understand what it sold for, what was in it that I couldn't see because it was sold. I knew this area better than any agent, I'm certain of it, in my marketplace. And I was also researching all the expireds, and I put on like my best suit, and I waxed my Honda, and I did. And I pulled in this guy's driveway. I was like, knock, knock, and it's like, hi, I'm Craig Reger, I'm with Keller Williams Realty. And I saw your house expired a couple weeks ago, and I know exactly why it didn't sell. I know exactly what's going on in the market. If I may have 15 minutes of your time, I'd love to share with you the skills and tools I'll use to get a home sold today. And I just smiled. And he started cussing at me and threatening my life. Like, he did. He like totally went off. And so that actually killed 2 of the best lead generation strategies we have, which is door knocking and expires. Because I'm like, I'm not doing this again. So all those 2 weeks of getting ready and all that study, I threw away the other dozen homes I was supposed to visit that day, and I never knocked on another door in my career. And now we door knock at least once a week. And if my team was here in California, we'd probably door knock 2 or 3 days a week because your weather's a little bit nicer. And what we do with door knocking is we door knock with offers. Like, I've got a major issue knocking on a door, like, hi, I've got an open house, do you want to come? Like, that's just, it's not me. I'm fragile, I don't want to do it, right? But what I'll do is, do you guys have, in this market, are you getting multiple offers on some homes? Yeah. Say yes. Do you have sometimes where you write an offer for your buyer? You've got like 20 buyers, so this must happen to you. Like, do you have situations where you write an offer for your buyer loses to a competing offer? Yeah. Perfect. So what I'll do, like, let's use the buyer strategy, is I'll cross off my buyer's last name, I'll cross off the other agent's name, and what's remaining is price, Jim and Sally buyer, 123 Main Street. Is that fair? And so there's nothing confidential on there. This is perfectly legal. And I'll make 50 copies of that offer. And now I'll go door knocking, and here's how that goes. It's like, knock, knock, and the dog's barking, and they're not happy to see me. I know they're not. And I'll answer the door. It's like, hi, I'm Craig Reger, I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and I know that your neighbor's house sold around the corner because my clients made an offer on it this weekend. They're extremely strong financially. It came in above full price. I don't know why they lost. Maybe it was cash. But they want to live on your street, sir, and here's a copy of their offer. And I'll hold it up and show it to them. And when you do that, you get instant validity. Like, people literally say, honey, come here. Like, even if they don't want to sell their home, like, they want to know more about this. It's so much more valid than, hey, do you want to come to my open house on Sunday? Right? And because it's valid, what they're going to do is they're going to start helping you. So if they don't want to sell, they're like, have you talked to the Joneses? I heard things aren't going well with them. Have you talked to the Smiths? They're pregnant. They might need a bigger home. Have you talked to the Johnsons? I heard they might be relocating. Like, they will start pointing you to what doors to go to because you're so valid. Now, that offer means nothing. It's a different house. Like, who knows what it's worth? But you're showing them that you have clients that want to live on their street, and it becomes very real and substantial conversations. Is that cool? Would that work here? I think it would work here. Expired listings was the last thing that I really did that was super successful. And I have a major issue calling expireds from last night. Ring, ring, hello. It's like, you're the 20th caller. Where were you when my house was for sale? Like, they're not very happy, are they? And this actually came by accident. I had a client call me up and he's like, hey Craig, you tried to sell my house like 5 years ago, and we reduced the price 5 times. Did that not happen in the recession here? Say yes. Yeah. And I gave up. I just gave up. Like, I wanted to, so I didn't have to sell, we surrendered. And I've seen a few houses go up for sale in my neighborhood. They're selling pretty quick because now a good time to sell. I'm like, yeah, man, it's amazing. So I went over. This guy failed to sell in our price points in Portland at $350,000. Like, started at $400,000, failed to sell at $350,000, so take it off the market. 5 years later, I put it on the market at $385,000, and it sold for $395,000. So in your world, that'd be like $1 million selling for 1.1. Fair? Like, he sold for more than I failed to get him. And I was like, you know what? There must be this like tremendously large group of people that tried to sell their home 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that didn't succeed. Not because their agent wasn't awesome, just it was not as good of a market then as it is now. I need to call them and share this messaging with them. And by the way, is that not true here in approaching 2016? Is a house here worth substantially more in 2016 than it was in 2013? Substantially more 2016 than 2011? So what I did is the second bit of technology I got was a company called RedX. And RedX gave me expireds that were 2, 3, and 5 years old. 2, 3, and 5 years old. And then I called them up, and the script I use is ring, ring, hello. It's like, hi, I'm Craig Reger, I'm Keller Williams Realty. I saw your house expired way back in 2012. Did you ever sell that home? And they said no, and I already knew the answer was no because RedX told me they never sold it. Does that make sense? I didn't pay for this, but it told me. It's like, did you ever sell that home? And they said no. I said, great, well, I've got good news, is that our market is substantially better now. In fact, we're seeing sellers get $50,000 and $100,000, in some cases $200,000 more than you failed to get back in 2012. And is that fair? There are some sellers in some neighborhoods that could get $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 more than 2012? And they'd say, really? And I'd say, yeah. And it's like, if you're interested in selling, I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it. And they typically say, where'd you come up with that number, 100,000 more? I'd be like, well, I made it up. I did, right? Like, just based on the market, like, that's a safe assumption. I'd say, let me do this. Let me do a quick market analysis. I have all your pictures from 2012. You can have your virtual tour. I haven't seen your home, so it's not going to be dead on accurate. But I'll just do a quick analysis, and I'll send you an email. And this should get us a little closer than that range I gave you. So now I've got their name, phone number, and email address. Whether they hire me or not, can I put them in my database and stay in touch with them for life? Say yes. And so often though, I'd give them that price and be like, okay, you're like somewhere between 700, 750, and if you're serious about selling, I could come over and hone that even tighter. And some would say, thank you so much, and others would say, yeah, why don't you come over? But it was such a good group. When I called in and used that script, essentially they were like, I'd be like, hi, I'm Craig Reger with Keller Williams Realty. They'd be like, hi, Craig. Because they hadn't heard from a real estate agent in 3 years. They're not like the expired from last night that's super grumpy. They're like, hi, Craig, what do you want? How can I help you? Hey, I've got good news. And is that not a good news call? Your house has gone up 100 or 200,000? It's a great news call. So between getting attention with my sphere, circle prospecting, and old expireds, we ended up failing. I didn't take 90 listings in 90 days. I took 83. And it was a game changer for my business. So what it did is it created habits and skills that will forever change my life, my business, my balance, my consistency. So I think my time is up. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.